All right, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. I decided I am going to make a video on this. I want to talk about the PS5 and the Xbox Series X specifically because we just had the PS5 showcase a couple days ago, and now we have all the details about both consoles, when they're coming out, and the pricing. Now, the PS5 showcase happened on last Wednesday, and it was awesome. They showed off tons of amazing games. The biggest bombshell for me at least, and I think for a lot of people in the entire show, was the fact that Final Fantasy 16 is going to be a console exclusive that is also coming out on PC, but it won't be coming out, at least initially, for the Xbox Series X. Now, if you were to ask me, I do believe that Final Fantasy 16 will make its way over to Xbox at some point. You just need to look at like Game Pass and previous Final Fantasy games. That the fact that right now in Game Pass you can get all the Final Fantasy games pretty much, and Final Fantasy 15. So it would make no sense for Square Enix to just kind of withhold Final Fantasy 16 from Xbox forever. I do see it eventually making its way over, but obviously if you want to play it right away, and probably within the first year or even a bit more, you're going to have to get a PS5, and I think that's going to be a huge seller for Sony and for the PlayStation 5. And again, they showed off all of the stuff we've already seen. They didn't show off anything new besides Final Fantasy 16 being a console exclusive. They showed off Spider-Man, looks amazing. I mean, the original Spider-Man game that came out on the PS4 was awesome. And they showed off Deathloop, looks awesome. Then they showed off a bunch of like other games that are going to be coming out on everything. So it doesn't really matter what you get. If you have PC, if you get an Xbox, you're going to be able to play it, like Resident Evil 8. And besides that, it was just an overall great show. One of the big things and talking points about the show was that the Miles Morales, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, and a lot of the supposedly PlayStation 5 exclusives that were going to only be on the PS5 are also coming out for the PS4, so it's going to be cross-generational. And it's funny because in their previous event in June, they were really against that, and they were all about generations and only putting out the new stuff on the new console. But I'm really happy they're doing this because it's great for the consumer, and obviously it makes a ton of business sense. And the funny thing is, it's not like Sony made this decision in the last 2 months that they were going to do this. Their marketing was definitely deceptive. I mean, they knew they were putting this stuff out on the PS4 right from the get-go. And obviously it makes it a business sense because there's so many PS4s that have been sold, such a huge install base. It would be stupid not to put these games out on the PS4 as well, at least for the first year of the PS5, with the supply issues with COVID and with the install base probably going to be relatively tiny for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X in the first year. So besides that, really good show. I really liked it. They ended it off showing the pricing. So in US dollars, it's going to be $4.99 for the disc version and $3.99 for the digital version. For me in Canada, it's a little bit worse. It's going to be $6.29 for the disc version and $4.99 for the digital version. So I'm here comparing the two. Although I'm comparing them and weighing the pros and cons, I'm being a bit hypocritical because I am going to be getting both. I always get both. I game on everything. That's just me. But the PS5 itself, I think at launch, the disc version being $6.29 in Canada is kind of bad. It's a sort of a bummer for a lot of people because so you're buying the $6.29 disc version of the PS5 and you're buying it pretty much to play the best version of Spider-Man Miles Morales, to play Demon's Souls, and to play potentially Godfall as a timed exclusive. The problem is $629.99 compared to the Xbox Series X, which is retailing for $599.99 at launch. You're paying $30 more for a less powerful console to play games you can get on the PS4, except for Demon's Souls. But for me, I'm not a huge fan of Demon's Souls, so personally, I don't really care. I never really played too many of the Souls games. So I'm not a huge fan. I probably won't even be picking it up, particularly because the pricing of new games are now going up $10. So in Canada, that's $90 for new games, which is crazy. After tax is going to be over $100. And then you look at the Xbox Series X. So Xbox Series X, $599 Canadian, the more powerful console. You buy it, then you're going to have to subscribe to Game Pass, and you're going to have a huge library of games, but there really isn't any killer exclusive that is only coming out for the Series X that really makes it worthwhile to buy. So you're asking yourself, well, why would you even get a Series X? And in reality, if you have a PC, there isn't the biggest selling point right now for the Series X. And I'm a person who loves Xbox. I play on my Xbox One X all the time, but if I'm being realistic, there isn't a huge selling point besides having the most powerful console and getting the best experience, most likely for third-party games. So you look at some third-party games coming out for both of these consoles too. There's going to be Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There's going to be Cyberpunk, all coming out within the same period. There's going to be Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War, and you're probably going to be getting the best experience on the Series X, whether it's minimal, probably for these launch games, for third-party games, but it should still give you the best experience if you look at it just from a tech spec point of view. So that's where I think, particularly in Canada, that the Series X may have a bit of an advantage. If you're looking at just wanting to pick up those third-party games and playing them on the most powerful console, you may want to lean towards the Series X because you're going to be paying less money for the Series X compared to the disc drive PS5. And if you're trying to get the digital version of the PS5, good luck. I mean, the stock on the digital version of the PS5 is extremely low, and I think Sony even came out and said that the production for the digital version is much lower right now than the disc version. So you're pretty much going to be having to get the disc version if you want a PS5 console at launch. And I mean, there's where that $30 extra comes in. And in general, I just think like the digital version is a big waste of money, in my opinion. I think it's really just a waste of money. It's like you're saving $130 or you're saving $100 in the US for a digital version, but if you literally buy like 2 brand new games throughout the life cycle of the PlayStation 5, like exclusive games particularly, you're already made up that $100 or $130 that you're saving on the disc version, and you can't even resell that stuff, and you don't even have like a physical collection for it. So if it ever goes off the store or whatever, if something happens, you don't have it anymore. So that's where I just think it's like a waste. And people who think, well, everything's digital, blah blah blah, I just think that like the fact that the disc is there, you own it, you have it, even though it's kind of just like a digital code on a disc, you still have the physical version. And if you want to trade it and you want to get some money back after playing it or give it to your friend or whatever, you can easily just do that. So I would never get digital, especially with the Xbox Series X. I think one of the biggest selling points for me is the fact that it's fully backwards compatible from the original Xbox to the Xbox 360 and to the Xbox One, because just looking at my collection, I have a ton of Xbox 360 games. I have a ton of Xbox One games, and the fact that I'm going to be able to now play all these games with upgraded visuals, higher resolutions on the Xbox Series X, to me is one of the biggest selling points for the console itself. I think if you're a collector, if you're somebody who loves physical games and you have physical 360 or Xbox games, you got to get the Series X. I know there is a Series S as well, which is all digital. It's less powerful, plays in 1440p and 1080p, and it's only $379 Canadian or $299 American. Not something I'm interested at all. And that again brings me to the next point. The disappointing thing for me about the PS5 is the lack of backwards compatibility, because if you ever played a 360 or like where it really shows the original Xbox backwards compatibility on the Xbox One X, it's insane how well that they do their backwards compatibility and how these games look brand new. Like they look like a new experience based off of the original versions because of the up-res graphics and just how good everything looks. And that's disappointing to me, because how awesome would it have been on the PS5 if they had full backwards compatibility for PS1, PS2, and PS3, and being able to play those games with higher versions, higher reses and everything. And I know there's argument like, why would you buy a new console to play old games, blah 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 blah. Well, you buy a new console to play old games because there's tons of old games that are amazing that you either haven't played yet or you want to re-experience. So graphics isn't everything, and if you can have backwards compatibility like the Series X that takes those old games and makes them better and makes them look better, it's a really really good feature, and I think that's going to be a big selling point for a lot of people. But besides that, you're choosing between the PS5 and the Series X at launch. I don't really think you can lose. I don't think there's one console that's better than the other right now. I think it's like, obviously you get a PlayStation if you love the PlayStation exclusives. That's a no-brainer. And even if you don't love the PlayStation exclusive, but you want to experience something, you have to get a PlayStation. You get an Xbox Series X if you want access to Game Pass and you want that amazing backwards compatibility and you want to have the most powerful console. You go with that at launch. But besides that, everything that's coming out on both consoles, again, except I believe, well, it's coming out on PC. No, so yeah, everything that's coming out on both consoles at launch can be experienced and played somewhere else. So there is really no big killer, no big seller for these consoles at launch. But I mean, it's at the end of the day, the pricing is good. The pricing is reasonable. They didn't overprice it for the power you're getting. Like the price of the Series S is really good for what you're getting. The price of the Series X and the PS5 is really good for what you're getting. But at the end of the day, it's really a win-win for the consumers. One other thing I want to mention is that with the Xbox Series X and the Series S, if you want to do like a payment plan, Microsoft also has that. It's like their all access plan with no interest where you pay like $35 a month or something for the Series X and $25 a month for the Series S, something like that. So that's cool too if you want to look at that option. What I think a lot of people are going to be doing this next generation is they're going to be picking up the PlayStation 5 for the Sony exclusives, and then they're going to be picking up a Series S for the Xbox Game Pass and everything else. Or maybe a PS5 and a Series X. Like that's what I'm doing. I'm getting a PS5 and I'm getting a Series X because I want to play those Sony exclusives. They look great. Then I want my Series X to be my backwards compatible console, my Game Pass, which is by far the best value in gaming. Even with that PlayStation collection that was announced, which gives you access to not all, but a lot of the back catalog of PlayStation exclusive PS4 games, is still, I don't think, compares to Game Pass. And it'll be my like third party machine where I'm going to be playing the majority of my third party games on. So I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, it's a win-win-win-win for everyone. The next generation is going to be amazing. The games are going to look great, and there's great games on both consoles. And Xbox right now doesn't have any, like I said, killer exclusive coming out of launch, but there are a ton coming out in the future. I think they even have more confirmed console exclusives for next gen right now than PS5, which I'm sure will change. But it'll definitely even out at the end of it. But they have games like Avowed, which looks like a really cool Skyrim style of game. They have the new Fable that they announced. They have a game called The Gunk, which I thought looked really, really cool. Hellblade 2, State of Decay 3, Warhammer 40,000 Darktide, which looks like a very, very cool first-person shooter, which I was watching a video yesterday where they re-mentioned that game, and I had totally forgot that they announced that as an exclusive, which is like crazy because it looks awesome and the Warhammer universe is actually really cool. Then they have a game called Everwild, which is a rare game that looks interesting. So there's going to be tons. You're going to have lots of stuff that's great on both. And I mean, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with either console. So I'm really excited. Got my PS5 pre-order on Tuesday. I'm crossing my fingers. They've handled the pre-orders really well for Xbox on Tuesday. They've announced the time and where you're going to get it. So I'm just crossing my fingers that the stock is enough to be able to get one, whether online or going into like EB Games or something. We'll have to wait and see. Let me know in the comments below what console you plan on picking up, whether it's the PS5, the Xbox Series X or Series S, or both. Let me know what you thought about the PlayStation 5 conference and just overall your excitement for next generation. Thank you guys all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.